We're recording.
Well, here we are, the last class. Well, this is the bonus class. So we could say last week was the last class. This is the bonus class. But rather than calling it a bonus class, let's call it a celebration class because we did it. We did it. We made it through the 6 weeks and we're here now to talk about it. So, Greg, before we go any farther, I think we should have a toast. I think we should raise a glass to this group that has been with us. Do you have a cup of tea there,
I
handy?
do have it. I do have some tea. So
Let's
cheers.
toast these people.
Cheers here. Try not to spill tea on the computer.
Yes. Yay, yay, yay.
Yeah.
And in all seriousness, folks, we really appreciate your time and commitment to be with us on this journey. And today is really intended to be a casual, fun, hopefully, look back, we might say, at some of the things that we've done, but also very much a now what question. What do we do now? How do we make sure that we can continue to really stay in touch with these great lessons that we've had over the last 6 weeks together? So Greg and I have a few things that we want to say, some ideas that'll hopefully be helpful, but the intent today is to have it be very casual and very conversational. We wish you were here with us so that we could all talk together, but we'll do our best. We'll do our best.
Yeah, we're picturing, we're picturing those situations that you get done with a program and then you sit around and have snacks, and that's kind of the atmosphere here today. Chris and I will be conversational.
Yeah. So as I was thinking, Greg, about the 6 weeks for me, I mean, I was here helping you teach the program, but I felt like every step of the way I was participating as well.
Yeah, sure.
And I was thinking back about, boy, what are my big takeaways, even for the, the fact that I've studied this information and mindful communication for a while. And one of my big takeaways, and I think it's similar to what we did in one of our role plays last week, where I was saying, hey, I just finished this class and I don't feel like I remember anything. I remember it was good, but I don't feel like I remember anything. And I think through the 6 weeks, every time I would log on to get on this call with you, I think I would have those yellow light experiences of, oh my gosh, I don't know if I remember. What is the green light? And over time, it felt like it got a little more normal to experience that. I would just embrace it as sort of my anxiety, and then it would go away.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it even in relationship to all the things we've learned and how easy it is for us to not trust our own, our own knowledge and wisdom, but also how oftentimes when we take a class, we externalize that the information is out there and not in us. And I think it creates kind of that yellow light uncertainty. So I wonder if you could just tell me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, no, I think you're really pointing right to it, Chris. I think one of the most beautiful things about this material is the idea that having the yellow lights, having the red lights, these are normal events. These aren't, it's not about some perfection project, right? I mean, that's the thing you and I have learned over time, we're practicing over time, is the idea that actually encountering these experiences in ourself is just part of being human. And, even the idea of the green light, so, well, the green light's this thing, I have to stay inside the green light the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? Which is itself a kind of setup actually to shut down.
Say more about that. Say more about that.
Well, I mean, just, when you think about it, it's the anxiety around, I have to do something that actually, when we look around in the world, we say, well, who does that? Maybe there are a few people who can pull that off, but there's not very many. It's sort of like winning the lottery or something. Okay, I have to win the lottery to be an okay human being. That just it's a setup for feeling bad about oneself.
Mm.
And you use that word confidence, and I think confidence is the critical word here. Being actually confident enough to have some yellow lights, to have some red lights, and for actually this to be the green light is actually the big confidence that can surround that and actually hold that experience. And and then, going into the red light isn't, obviously it's not something we aim for. It's not something we're trying to do. And honestly, it's not a good thing. Actually, shutting down is not helpful in any way. In any circumstances, even very intense circumstances, shutting down is actually the last thing you want to do under intense pressure. But nonetheless, that green light, that green light, feeling of I'm confident enough to actually look at my experience. I'm
Mm.
confident enough to look at my own embarrassment, my own shame, my own sense that I'm not worthy, all of these feelings that we have. And I can hold those, like I can hold those with a sense of kindness and dignity and intelligence
Mm.
and connection. It's just so much that's workable. Being in the, being in the green light all the time, actually being in the green light all the time is actually being able to hold that.
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and and furthermore, when we go through those experiences of our yellow light and our red light, it's so human. It helps us to connect with others. It helps us to go, ah, yeah, that's what I saw going on with that other person. Is just what I
Yeah.
saw going on in myself. You feel connected because you
Yeah.
went through that. So it's really
Yeah.
it's good news to actually deal with these things in a decent way. It's not
You
bad
know, as
news.
yeah, as we're talking about the lights, in addition to my really increasing familiarity and maybe comfort with my yellow light experiences over these many weeks, I have to admit, I still tend to judge the red light as not good. Now, I know
Yeah.
you already pointed to that, but give me some words of wisdom here when I'm noticing the red light either in myself or someone else. How could I not immediately jump to judging that as something bad?
Yeah. That's the toughest one maybe. Um, we're so we've so inculcated our own mind with the idea that the red light is bad. And for good reason, because when we look around in the world, the worst things we see are the red light.
Mm.
Actually, you know what I mean? The red light can get very extreme, and we've all had really, really harsh experiences with the red light. So of course, naturally, there's an association, the idea that the red light is it's not just that the red light is harmful, because red light is harmful.
Mm.
Actually, it really is. Like when I shut down, even if nobody else is around, if I just shut
Mm.
down, that's harmful to myself. I'm teaching myself how to shut down, and I'm also missing cues that actually could be helpful to me. So, I mean, the red light is harmful, but nevertheless, the red light is part of our world. It's part of our
Mm.
lives. It's part of our relationships. And learning how to deal with it is actually um, tremendously powerful. It's tremendously, it gives you actual enthusiasm as you learn how to deal with the red light. You don't feel so scared of it anymore.
Mm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's actually that's kind of the biggest takeaway of all of this is that this is how you start to turn things around is by is by is by being able to follow the advice of, when the light is red, stop. So, when we're with somebody and they go into the red light, we know not to engage further and further and further and suck ourselves down into that pattern ourselves. right? Because that's
Yeah.
what tends to happen. But then also, when we look back at our own red light after the fact, usually, when we're in it, we don't know it. But when we look back, we can see that we went into a red light. We actually know that's not the direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut myself off from myself. I don't gain anything from doing that. And I cause harm to myself and others potentially. So we really gain that confidence that the red light itself is not those people, and actually nor is it that I am bad because I did it. It's that we are learning to turn around the fundamental process by which harm is created in this world.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is, and it's empowering, because it says to us that we can start to gain confidence with more and more challenging situations. If I start to learn to work with my own red light, that's going to give me more flexibility and insight about how to work with others' red light. And
Yeah.
that's where incredible opportunities open up. At first we're so scared of somebody's red light. We're, again, with good reason. I don't want to downplay that, with good reason. But then as we gain confidence about being able to stop and not buy in to somebody's pattern, we actually are able to get in a little bit closer and stay a little bit calmer and then look for opportunities, because people don't stay in the red light all the time. They would,
Right.
there's just even moments where they come out, just moments where you can, if you're skilled, and I think of, somebody who's a really skilled, I don't know, psychiatric nurse or something, right? Who works up close with people who are in extreme states, but there's still opportunities, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's still ways that you can actually work skillfully with the energy of that situation. But most of us don't have that confidence. A skilled psychiatric nurse has confidence because they're in that world,
Mm-hmm.
and they learned how to flow with the energy of the situation and go forward or back off or just hold steady. And I think we're
Yeah.
all learning that. We're learning that with our own, you know, difficulties.
Yeah. So this conversation about growing our confidence, it also makes me think of, sometimes I've taken classes or had experiences where we finish whatever it is we were doing, and then the message at the end is, this is really the beginning, not the end. We now have equipped you with XYZ, and now you are beginning your path. Some days
Right.
I like how that sounds more than others, because some
Right.
days you want to feel like, well, I thought I reached a level of competence here. But I think in a way it probably is true that each step we're kind of starting at the beginning of something new. And it made me think of some of the things we talked about in our very first class about that, about our journey together.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Chris. Um, let's pull that up just for a sec.
Yeah,
Let's just review that diagram that we looked at. It's a long time ago.
I
Hope
know.
people
Seems like
can remember
forever
all the way
ago.
back to the beginning. But I think that's true, because the truth is that we all, 100% of us, come in the door, with this sense of struggle. And we're here for a reason, is because we don't know how to deal with things, and it's overwhelming us. It feels unproductive. We feel like we're just going around in circles, and it's really hard. It's really hard. And so, many of us coming in the door to this class feel exactly this way. Um, but I want to actually be bold for a moment. Let's be
Go
bold.
for it. Be bold. Be bold, Greg. Be bold.
Yeah, so we're not here anymore. None of us are here anymore. You know, if you just engaged at a basic level, you're already not here. You're already here. You're already in the watering phase. And what is happening is the seeds of your questions over here and your struggles are being watered with a different approach, a different way to see what's going on. And, you know, that's really great. That's fantastic. And, you know, it's your process. It's your questions. It's nobody else's. It's not ours. It's not like Chris and I know what your solutions will be. Your green light will figure out what your solutions will be. So that's great news. And then, you know, maybe you feel like you're at the stage where it's really putting down roots and it's starting to really affect your interactions with others in a serious way. Well, great, that's fantastic. But if you're not there yet, it doesn't matter because you're watering. And we, you know, Chris and I, when we were talking about these stages, you know, the idea that when you plant seeds, it doesn't look like anything's happening for a long time. Right? It's just sort of like bare dirt. Like, well, why did I even do this? What is the point? It's like, well, just, you know, you can't see the roots going down. You don't see the roots going down, but they're going down. If you're watering those seeds and there's dirt, it goes down. And that these roots are pulling up resources for you for the rest of your life.
And that's beautiful, Greg, because that requires trust, right? I'm thinking back of maybe my very first time as a little kid when the teacher had us plant a bean, you know, and watch it grow. It took trust to believe that something was happening below the dirt. It takes trust to believe that the roots are actually growing when you can't see something manifest, you know, in front of your own eyes. So I love that you're talking about that.
Well, that's it. And then, you know, of course, we all love this final stage where you get to see
yeah, the
where
flower.
it went, right? You know, we're all hooked on the end, but we're not, you're right. We need the trust to go through the process.
Trust and patience, right? Trust and patience.
Trust and patience.
Yeah.
So it's, I think wherever we're at, it's really good news. It's really good news, and we're doing the right thing. And I don't think we have to worry about that.
So maybe a cool way for me to think about this, and maybe this would help others, is that I really am in the watering and fertilizing phase of all these great things, just like I would do with a plant. How would I care for that so that the roots go stronger and so that I increase the chance that the flower will actually bloom? And let's talk a little bit about that. What would watering look like for us with these skills? What can we do to water our seeds that we've planted these 6 weeks? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, first and foremost, we really need to practice mindfulness. We need to practice.
Define what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, that's it. So, you know, we've talked about mindfulness as paying deep attention to our direct experience, and we've done that over and over. So I think everybody has some sense of that. And, you know, there's always the, you know, the question of like, well, can I just do that while I'm riding my bicycle and or I'm gardening or whatever? And of course you can do it while you're riding your bicycle, and of course you can do it while you're gardening. You can do it anytime, actually, doing anything, you know, changing your baby's diapers or your, you know, whatever, you're shaving, you know, or whatever. It doesn't matter. But, and this is a big but, it's really important to do it in a dedicated way as well. Because I think otherwise it's a little bit like, you know, could I learn to be an opera singer while I'm riding my bicycle? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, sure, but it might be better to actually get an opera coach. It might be better to actually really work on it in a very still environment where you're actually focused on one thing. Because for most of us, it's not second nature to be mindful. Actually, we've trained ourselves away from our mindfulness. It's a little bit of an effort to bring ourselves back. and so really practicing, really
It
sitting
kind
down
of,
and practicing.
yeah, it kind of reminds me as you say that we've forgotten, and we've got to bring ourselves back. It reminds me of kind of walking uphill. I live in a very hilly neighborhood. And so walking uphill, sometimes I notice, oh, I'm really huffing and puffing. It's hard work because my body doesn't remember how to function, optimally to get myself up the hill, which gives me a clue that maybe I should be working out. Maybe I
Yeah,
should be
sure.
going on walks more frequently and picking up my pace. Maybe if my gym's open, I should go walk or run on the treadmill.
No.
But I think about that. When I go walk or run on the treadmill, I don't do it just for the sake of that. I do it so that I can walk up the hill without gasping for air.
Right.
So yeah, I like that idea that in a way with our mindfulness practice, we've conditioned ourselves to now to have to walk up the hill because we've learned how to not pay attention. And now we've got to do some things, or it helps if we do some things to be in better shape mentally and
Right.
emotionally,
Right.
right?
Yeah, well, that's so well put, Chris, right? Because you say, well, I'll just, as I'm going around the house, I'll pick up my pace, or, I'll do it while I'm vacuuming or something. You're like, okay, yeah, you could get a little exercise doing that, but going to the gym and focusing on really bringing your attention to training for strength, it's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's something about actually sitting down for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and it's twice a week, or it's 4 times a week, or whatever. It's 7 days a week for some people. That's great. Um, the more you train, the stronger you get, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you're bringing up some really good questions of, well, okay, let's say that I do think I could start some sort of mindfulness practice. Then it goes to, how much do I have to do? What should I do? How many days a week do I do it? Do I have to find somebody to teach me? And I'm sure you as a mindfulness instructor have gotten all these questions over the years. I certainly have. What's
Yeah.
your what's your basic guidance? Let's say if people are just starting out with a practice, what would be the tips you would give to give them some momentum?
Yeah, sure. Um, one of the things is setting yourself a little bit of a goal, and it doesn't have to be some unrealistic goal. In fact, I think it's actually better to have it be really realistic.
Hmm.
You know, it's you say like, let's do 10 minutes once a week. If that's it, right? If that's your realistic goal, start there. And don't just say, okay, I'm going to do it every day for an hour, and then you don't do it at all. That's
Well, I
just,
just have to
yeah,
interject. Going
sure.
back to my treadmill example, that
Yeah.
would not be wise if I haven't worked out and then I set a goal to go to the gym and run for an hour on the treadmill.
Yeah.
That would not be
Right.
helpful. It would not be doable, and I would be
Yeah.
demotivated.
Yeah. Right. You don't feel successful doing that, right? So instead you want to do something realistic. So whatever that is, 15 minutes on the treadmill. Um, and you build, but the thing is you gain confidence. It's just like we were
Hmm.
talking about. You gain confidence by doing it. And you start to say, okay, I did 15 minutes. I can do 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And instead of it feeling like a drag, because I think at first it's a little tough. The truth is that when you sit down to practice mindfulness at the start, you don't know what you're doing yet. You don't feel that strong. You don't have your sense of your connection with yourself is maybe a little bit weak. And so it feels foreign. It
Hmm.
feels like, what am I'm not used to turning my attention back on myself in a peaceful way. Maybe we used to being self-conscious in a harsh way, but I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
used to actually like just letting go and connecting in with my experience. So we feel weird. Well, running on the treadmill feels weird if you haven't done it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, oh my God, I feel sore, and oh, I'm breathing heavy, and what is this? But over time, actually, you look forward to it.
Well,
you
and
gain a different
again,
relationship.
yeah, and again, it's funny because I think about the number of people over the years who know that I have a meditation practice and mindfulness practice, and they'll say something like, I tried that once and it didn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just to what you're saying. If
Yeah.
you, just like if you go do the treadmill the first time after a long, long time or first time ever, you probably don't walk away saying, what a wonderful experience.
I feel
You
so much stronger. Yeah.
exactly. You
Right.
have to trust that something is happening in your body that's good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like who would want to go back? So I
No,
think
it's
that's
so
so
true.
important that people sometimes have this idea that they're going to sit down for their first practice and find this moment of bliss or even calm, and then they
Yeah.
don't get that, and then they say, well, this isn't working, why would I want to do this?
Well, and let's just point out something really critical. I think when you said the word bliss there, Chris, that's a really crucial um, mistake
Hmm.
that people make when it comes to mindfulness. Mindfulness, you say, well, okay, I'm going to go find my bliss with mindfulness. Well, actually, what mindfulness is often is actually noticing where we're disconnected. That's ironically, right? Actually, Susan Chapman is the one who I really heard say that most clearly.
Yeah.
When you practice mindfulness, you notice mindlessness. And so I think that's part of what's a little bit tricky about mindfulness for us. You say, well, I don't want to notice that I'm disconnected. Well, okay, all right, but the strength comes actually from moving through that. That's your treadmill, or that's your whatever, your
Yeah.
hill you're walking up, is actually to come to peace with the idea that you do disconnect in various ways. I do start to ignore parts of myself, my body or my heart or my mind. And then what happens as soon as I notice that, this is the power of mindfulness, our awareness as a tool that we talked about last time. The power of that is to actually, when I see that, as soon as I see that I was disconnected, I'm already a bit less disconnected. If I have a sense of gentleness towards myself, a sense of decency
Hmm.
towards myself, I'm already less disconnected. It's already working. Those muscle fibers are already strengthening. And and then over time, you take this kind of fragmented situation that's all disconnected, and it just naturally starts to knit itself back together.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do a lot more than noticing. You there may be things you need to do in your life that are important, but in terms of the practice itself, you need to just pay attention.
Yeah, and I think what you're speaking about now, while people can learn mindfulness and meditation practice in so many ways these days with apps and articles and
Yeah.
blogs and guided meditations and workshops and retreats and all kinds of things. Thank goodness that we have all those resources, and we're going to be talking in a bit about the resources we have at
Yeah.
Green Zone. But I do think what you're pointing to is part of why it could be helpful, while not absolutely necessary. It could be helpful to have a group or an instructor or a coach or someone that you can talk to about your experience. Because I sometimes wonder, with all those people who've told me, hey, I tried it once and I didn't like it, it didn't work. I just sometimes wonder if they would have had someone to talk to about that experience and had somebody say, no, 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 you're actually doing it
You're
perfectly.
doing it right. Yeah.
This is what happens in the beginning
Yeah.
stage, and again, help them develop their confidence about what they're experiencing and their
Yeah.
trust. I wonder how many people would have continued. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good point, Chris. And I think it comes back to motivation, like gaining motivation to do this thing, like running on the treadmill is hard. Well, why am I doing this? Okay, well, get some good advice. Get some good
Hmm.
advice. And we have our advice, but there's many people who can give you advice on mindfulness training. There's great resources out there. There's a
Yes.
zillion YouTube videos and books and all of it, right? So, and groups, see, the idea of doing it in a group is actually kind of helpful, because if you show up to do it in a group, you can't you can't say to yourself, well, this is impossible, because
Exactly.
everybody else is sitting there,
Everybody else
right?
is doing it.
Everybody, even if they're just on Zoom, they're doing it too, and you, okay, I can hang in another 10 minutes.
Although we have to be honest here, Greg, and say when we're in a group, I know this has happened to you. It happens to me a lot. I'm in a group, whether it's on Zoom or residential in a room with people before the
Yeah.
pandemic, and everybody looks like they're so concentrated and focused. And I think I am the only one here that is going crazy in my mind, right?
So
Isn't that true?
true. So
Everybody
true.
else looks like they're in this
Yeah.
wonderful space.
Right. And they're probably
And I feel
looking
like
back
a
at,
crazy
they're
person.
looking back at you thinking the same thing, right?
Exactly.
But the truth is that craziness that we do sometimes experience, like on the cushion. Sometimes you feel really peaceful when you're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Other times you don't. Actually, it's really important to say very clearly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because when you notice your mind going crazy, that's mindfulness. You're doing it. You're succeeding. You say, no, 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 no. I'm failing because my mind doesn't look like a flat line with nothing in it. Well,
Uh-huh.
listen, there's a lot of variety of human experience, and this is about being human. And our thing here is actually that we notice that I'm going a bit crazy that day, and then when we get up and we go about our life, and we see red lights popping out inside myself, like, oh my God, what did I just say to that person? Well, yeah, that's because today things are a little weird. There's a storm going on inside my emotions and my mind or my body or whatever. I'm tired. I'm noticing that physically I'm tired. Well, that's affecting how I react to things.
Mm-hmm.
And, just having that baseline, then what we can do is we can steer differently.
Yeah.
So it's really good. And mindfulness practice gives us that. That one of the hardest things I was getting going. So Chris, like when you started doing mindfulness practice, how did you get going?
Oh gosh. Well, I would say I had a lot of, as they call it, fits and starts. I had a lot of
Yeah.
kind of like with the treadmill. I'm
Yeah.
going to get in shape this year, and then that lasted a week or two. So I had a lot of.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use the word dabbling. I dabbled a lot. I
Yeah.
would go here. I would go there. I would do this thing, do that thing.
Me too.
Nothing really seemed to stick. I mean, I think I felt sometimes pleasant in the experience, but I oftentimes got up from the meditation thinking, I don't know that this is really doing anything. Back to your point about the roots. I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of that way of thinking, that roots are growing even if I feel like I can't visibly see transformation in my life. But what I like to call it my inflection point. What was the point? And I still remember when it happened, the point where I dabbled, and then all of a sudden something happened, and I say, wow, this stuff is working. And by working, I mean, I am functioning better in life. I'm
Yeah.
feeling better,
Yeah.
and I'm functioning better. I'm dealing
Right.
with stress better. I'm dealing with interpersonal relationships better. I'm less afraid of things, right? A whole list
Yeah.
of things. And I consider that like when I have the inflection point of like, all right, no turning back now. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life because
Yeah.
it is making a difference to me. But it did take some experimenting, doing different things, reading different teachers, talking to different people. So I had to allow myself like some experimentation in there, and
Yeah.
trying not to fall into that trap that I said others have done of saying, well, I tried that, it didn't work, I'm not going to do it again. How about you? What was your what finally started sticking for you in practice?
Yeah. I think that, God, that inflection point, that's a great way to frame it, because I did fits and starts. I can totally relate to that. I think honestly, it took me about a year and a half before I had a really regular practice. And I kept trying to, but I just didn't. And I think one of the major things actually was I finally made myself a place to sit down and do mindfulness
Uh,
practice. because I don't know why, first, especially at the start when things were tough, I'd always find an excuse at the last minute to not do it. And oftentimes it was like, oh, well, I've got to put things together and put this cushion over here and do this. And I was like, then I would want to go check my email or something, right? Call a friend. So instead I made a dedicated spot, and that helped. But that inflection point came, actually, interestingly, I was already feeling the effects of it. I started to up the amount of practice I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during a particular period of my life that was actually quite difficult. And so I was just hoping this would somehow help. And there
Yeah.
was emotionally painful things that were going on. And I felt that effect that you were talking about. And then that got me so excited, feeling less afraid, being able to move through difficult experience more easily. Less red light, more green light, naturally, better treatment of my yellow light. And then I went on a week retreat, actually a week meditation retreat, which was a huge experiment. It was very nerve-wracking.
Oh, I
And
remember my first retreat.
oh yeah. Um, and this is something, some people are never going to go on a retreat or anything. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that everybody has to do this, but what struck me was that actually I was really distracted most of the time. I was in a lot of physical pain,
Yeah.
sitting down so much and all of this, and I was trying to work with that and shift myself around and figure out a better way to sit the whole week,
Yes.
and thinking that this isn't working, thinking this is like all I'm doing is, dealing with discomfort. And then on the last day, I actually had a really jarring interaction with somebody. It's a long story, I won't go into it, but it's just somebody who misunderstood some organization that we were doing in a small group, and they got really upset at me, and I didn't get really upset back. I could see through. I could see, essentially, I didn't know this mindful communication yet, but I could see the lights, and I knew that her upset didn't have anything to do with me in that particular moment. And I was able to, in the moment, I was able to clarify the misunderstanding. I was able to see what the misunderstanding was. And without reacting and getting all wound up, I was able to say, oh, no, 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 no. We thought you said this, but actually, I didn't understand that you meant this.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I clarified it, everything dissolved. She wasn't upset anymore. Actually, we ended up hugging. It was really nice, but it was like,
Wow.
oh, for me, that was a moment where I'm
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
this stuff is life-changing. This is
Yeah.
really, this could turn that kind of situation that could have been a thing where, maybe it's 5 years later and I see her and I still feel bad about it. Instead, when I think of her, I have real warmth.
That's fantastic.
It's like, wow, I
Yeah.
wonder what else this could affect in life.
Wow. So I love what you said about for you, one of the things that helped you was to actually dedicate a place where you would sit and meditate.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking too, for me, one of the things that has been most helpful to keep me meditating for many years is that I have a lot of techniques that I use, a lot of meditation techniques that I use. I don't just
Yeah.
use one. And the reason that helps me is it takes away all my excuses. Like if I sit down to meditate and I say, oh, I'm just too tired today. Oh, I think I have a technique I could use for working with fatigue. Oh, I'm too stressed today. I'm too agitated. Oh, I know a technique I could use for agitation. So in a funny way, but a very practical way, it takes away my excuses. I have fewer and fewer excuses of why I can say, it's just not the right time today. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so that has helped me a ton.
That's great. Well, and for our people in this course, we've done this body, heart, mind
Uh-huh.
practice. And boy, when when does checking in with your body, heart, and mind, when is that not valid? What kind of experience are you having where that's not valid? Like, you always have a body experience, a heart experience, and a mind experience.
Yeah, it's always with you, right?
It's always with you, and checking in with it is always helpful, even if you're going through a really difficult experience and there's a lot going on and your body's hurting, or your tender heart is hurting, or you have mental anguish. It's like, well, knowing that is invaluable,
Yeah.
right? Because as soon as, again, it's like knowing that I can then shift how I approach things. For example, like tiredness. When I'm tired, what I notice sometimes when I'm mindless, when I shut down my relationship with my body because it's uncomfortable, is that I move too fast. I'm
Mm.
trying to move at a normal pace, but I'm tired. And what I end up doing is bumping things and knocking things over, and then I get more frustrated. Instead of just slowing down, like it's really simple. Just slow
Yeah.
down my movement. Move, walk through my apartment at a slower pace, pick up things at a slower pace, pour my tea at a slower pace. It's fine. Actually, it's not, it's just like, well, of course I was causing problems because I wasn't connected with my body and I
Yeah.
wasn't respecting the situation that was happening there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and the other thing, your point about you could always check in with the body, mind, and heart. It's always different. Just like we said about the
Yeah.
lights flashing moment by moment, those experiences in body, heart, and mind are changing all the time. So you're right. If
Yeah.
if I sat down and did a meditation with the body yesterday, I could have a very different experience if I meditate on the body today. So
Yeah, absolutely. And mindfulness, without mindfulness, we're not going to notice the lights.
yeah.
Like we just can't. Like that's just the truth of it is we say, well, I don't want to do the mindfulness part, but I want to notice the lights. You won't. There's something we have to clean the lens, of our whatever you want to call it, microscope, telescope, whatever way we're looking. We have to clean the lens so that we can see things clearly. And that's what
Yeah.
mindfulness is. So, and we need to gain the motivation, the idea that, walking on that treadmill is going to be useful to us when it is hard. And so let's talk about resources.
Yes.
There's so many resources um, that are available. And I want to say before we talk about our specific resources, I want to say that you have our people have resources in their lives. Whoever's watching
Hmm.
this, you have resources in your lives that we've talked about. How do you make your personal green zone? Whether it is going to that park, whether it is, um, uh, uh, changing where you sit in a room every day when you do your work, because it's actually you like that. There's just simple, stupid, simple things. It sounds inane, but actually it's quite important, especially if it's something you're doing all the time. Who are you turning to when you're having difficulties? Is it the friend who actually has the best advice and you feel more yourself afterwards, or is it the friend who actually gets you so wound up that you feel bad afterwards? And which voices inside ourself are we listening to? This is what mindfulness is crucial for, is to actually determine these things. But I also want to say that we have resources. Green Zone Institute has resources for you to continue, and you're all getting free time in the online community. And we're going to reach out to you at the completion of this course with the invitation to come into the online community that free period. And that'll give you a sense of what we do in our online
What
community.
happens in the online community,
Yeah,
Greg? How would
so,
you
well,
describe
that's
it?
it. The online community is, unlike this course, is very interactive. The online community is your chance to come in, and there's others there. You're sharing your mutual questions, you're sharing your responses. We have live events and live broadcasts, and also a kind of ongoing content that's coming out to you at a regular pace in little bites to keep you hooked in, so that
Like what
actually,
might that be? Can you just
like,
give us like one example of
sure,
the
just,
little bite of content?
well, that's it. Like, take for example, the protests last summer, the Black Lives Matter protests. We produced little videos about that from a mindful communication perspective, that just reflecting off of this large cultural trend. And I think that's it. The online community are little reflections that can be based on what's going on right now, And they're reminders. They're just these little drops, little reminders to keep utilizing this in your daily life, no matter what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, we actually also have small group work. We talked about creating green zones with your trusted people in your life, your loved ones, but also there are what we could call formal green zones, where you actually have a group and you come to a group, and that group is dedicated to this approach and processing experience with others in
But are
real
you
time.
talking about being in a group, getting together with people that live by you? Or are you
No,
talking
this
about
is
how
this
do you
is
get
online.
together?
This is online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe after COVID, maybe we will
Yeah,
have live
yeah,
situations. But the advantage with online is that you can just do it from your home, and also that you get to meet people from all over the world, because we have people from over the world. You
yeah.
might end up having a dialogue with somebody, from Chile, from Sweden, from you know Australia or whatever. And it's very interesting actually to cross cultural boundaries and talk about something that's so human across all those boundaries. Somebody who might be quite different from you in many ways, but actually you have shared experience of the lights and working with the lights. And so it's quite powerful. And
Yeah, the whole idea about interacting with people around the world, I will attest to that, that's been one of the most powerful things of some of the things I've participated in with the Green Zone, of being able to interact with people that I would never get to learn about their experiences. And it's just been so fascinating. And maybe for the first time ever, I do feel more like a global citizen because I have these
yeah,
relationships with people in different parts of the world.
yeah, I do too. I think of one of these situations where we had somebody in Chile, and we would start off checking in. Last year they had tremendous political strife and issues going on, and rioting and all of this stuff. And how are things going, and checking in, how are things now? And then 8 months later, it was the United States that had lots of rioting going on and things. And well, and then how's COVID in your country? How's COVID, and what are you guys doing? And it's just, there's something, that's it, there's something about just feeling that we have shared experience. It's very powerful. So um, I wanted to say just a little bit more. Let me just share a few other resources that people can be aware of. One of them is the book that actually, this is a book you should get, The 5 Keys to Mindful Communication. We'll have further books coming out, but right now this is the book. I love this cover. They did a
I do
beautiful,
too.
beautiful
I do
job with the
too.
cover. And so this is Susan Chapman. This is the vision holder of this material. And you can really, especially now with what you will be able to absorb this so quickly. So you can look online for this. And most of you are on our email list, but if not, you can get on our email list on our website, greenzonetalk.com, and we will send out a stream of hopefully helpful things. We obviously we market our stuff too, but we're also just trying to be useful and and keep sharing little bits of things with you. And we've got a YouTube channel that you can check out and subscribe to, so that the public videos that come out through the YouTube channel will show up. And we've got a Facebook group, or I'm sorry, a Facebook page that you can join. We also do have Facebook groups. We've got a more general group, and then we've got one that is, oops, that's not, there we go. We got one that is, where did it go? Oh, anyways, we also have one for professionals and longtime meditators that you can check out. Uh, so there's a lot going on. Green Zone Institute has a lot going on, and we would love for you to be part of our community.
Mm.
And the reason why is that each of you has a particular perspective and a particular insight into your own patterns. You have a voice that's actually important to our conversations. And as we grow this understanding over time of what mindful communication is and what mindful communication can do in this world, you know, we need you. So welcome to the online community. The announcements will go out soon about that. And we'd love to see you in there.
Mm.
We hope to see you in there.
Yeah, again, I want to reinforce that in my several years of participating in various things with Green Zone Institute, it, I just find that I have conversations in those offerings like no others. Even though I have beautiful conversations with a lot of people in my life, there's something special when you get together with people who share these skills and who come together with such dedication and heart to be connected to each other in a certain way. It's just so beautiful.
Well, I know we need to close up today, Chris. I wanted to just check in and see if you had any closing words before we sign off.
Yeah, I would just say, I guess back to what we started with today of I know it's easy to try to think back about the content, the stuff that we talked about and question whether you really got it or remember it or whatever. I just hope for all of us, including me, including Greg, hoping all of us can really tap into that confidence and trust that even on days we can't see the flower blooming above the dirt, trust that the roots are growing. Trust that the roots are going. That's my thought. And
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wish everybody well. I'm so glad to have had this opportunity with you all.
Well, I want to say in terms of my last words here is that I have just so appreciated working with you, Chris. I really, this whole process has been great. And I so appreciate everybody tuning in to this program. And I think what Chris just said there, the idea that the roots are growing, they're not just growing for us. They're not, this is not just helpful for me. You know, we underestimate the power of this. We underestimate the simple power that when I am connected to myself, it's not just easier for me, it's easier for everybody around me. And by easier, I don't mean just, okay, like I'm less problem. That's good. You know, it's good to be less of a problem in our world, you know, do no harm or whatever. But the simple presence of somebody can actually wake up another person. You know, just to see somebody who's actually feels that confidence in themselves. I mean, think about kids, right? Kids look to adults and they learn. And if they see an adult who is attacking themselves in a very harsh way, or acting out, yellow light, red light, whatever, that's what they learn. And if they see somebody who has at least some confidence that they're actually okay, that the green light is the true nature of who they are, and then they're working on things. Well, that's an incredible lesson. So even, so being a parent or being around kids, that's obvious. But it's not just that. It's that when I am hooked in to that confidence, I can affect others in more positive ways. I can help organize things that need to be organized and change things that need to be changed. I can be less lost in my tunnel vision of, oh, I'm bad, or oh no, they're bad, or whatever. And instead I say, no, wait a minute, what is the total situation here? Who are the different people involved in this family system? Where are they coming from? What patterns are they bringing in? There's this real sense of deep emotional intelligence and just straightforward intelligence and body intelligence, but what's going on in this situation? Like, we don't have enough food at this party. Let's get something going here, you know, just basic human intelligence. And that makes us powerful actors in a world that actually really needs powerful actors. It doesn't need people who are shut down. More than ever, we need people who are hooked in. And you are those people, whether you know it or not, whether your roots, you feel your roots going down or not, they're going down. And you're going to be that person. So thank you. Thank you for going on this journey together. It's been such a pleasure, and we really hope we see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care.